This is an SM Media production.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the final episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure, as always, to be your host. And we're at the end. We're at the end of a bumper series. It feels a bit like the Christmas lull. It always does at this time of the year. It is always a pleasure to welcome onto the show from the Scottish Daily Mail, the one and only Calum McClurkin. Calum, are you in the same train of thought as I am?
Yeah, no, it's always in the big road, the big build up in the weeks by, and you've got to kind of process it and numbers together and figure things out. There's still Aintree punches down here afterwards, which is quite good, and you've got the flat on Saturday at Lincoln meeting for the flat fans, so it always keeps rolling. But yeah, it always is the 4 days of the year that can completely dictates jump racing fans for the purists, and it's while there have been kind of wee weaknesses here, there, and everywhere, niggles with the program and things, it's still a thoroughly enjoyable spectacle.
Right, I would ask, how did you get on in terms of anti-posting on the week, and how did you think the festival was as a whole? But we actually got some questions to answer these themselves. But the first question I'm going to ask before we get into all that, Callum, what is one horse that didn't win at Cheltenham that you think will win at either Fairyhouse, Aintree, or Punchestown?
Try and give at least one for each, and I think you'd expect brighter days ahead to go to Fairyhouse. It's kind of beating horses, quick turnaround. That's straight into Easter, so you're talking 2 weeks maximum. You need likely race novices to really look there. I would think. She looks won the extra half a mile in the Grade 1, not carrying a penalty. They went too slow in that, didn't suit her. Still second. You'd expect her to go there and fulfil her potential, I would say. So she would be what the win for Fairyhouse. Maybe look at Nicky Henderson's for Aintree if they can get out of this funk in time. They were kind of disappointing generally. I think Northern Joe travelled really well in a strong Martin Pipe, 2 out, flattened out. He could make amends at Aintree quite quickly as a seasoned handicapper because there's plenty of options. Places like Aintree for him. Punchestown, I think Fast or Slow could turn over a gallop in the Champ again. He was travelling reasonably well. A fairly innocuous mistake. I think maybe just slipped in landing or something like that. But he was right in the heels of them, turning in. He'll be fresher for that. Martin Brassil didn't have the luckiest week at Cheltenham as a whole, even though he only had a few runners. But I think Punchestown, he might be the kind of sharper jumper, slicker horse. And you can kind of see galloping the Cheltenham. That was a big effort again, and bottomless ground. I think, better ground, 3 mile, like Punchestown, that might be a bit sharp for him. Fast or Slow could beat him. Again. So they'd be 3 kind of solid ones to consider for the 3 assignments down the line.
Right, Fairyhouse, I don't know where they're going to go with this horse, but for the second year in a row, Adrian Heskin has screwed up Magical Zoe's chances at Cheltenham, held her too far back. I think if they go even into a Grade 1, so a graded race at Fairyhouse or Punchestown, then Magical Zoe would have a serious chance. I think if she was anywhere close to the pace, she'd have won that race, I'll be honest. Aintree, probably similar to you. Look at Nicky Henderson. The one that I probably look at with the news today about maybe Constitution Hill going to Punchestown, I think Irish Point for the Aintree Hurdle was probably rock solid. That's probably the one I would go with. Is the obvious one Corrit Rambler?
I thought he was legless at the line, and I think 5-1 for the Grand National is far too short now.
It's
He wouldn't be.
short. It's short,
4
but
week
I thought
turnaround.
he was.
4
I
week
thought he
turnaround
was
for that.
excellent in that race. I thought he ran a great race.
He was very tired at the line. He was coming, like, he was quite well going third, and you're going, well, wow, and he was walking, and his stride pattern was notably shorter. And for a 4 week turnaround with that, and you've got the top weight Hewitt going to the Aintree Bowl instead, he'll have to carry even more weight than expected. And I just think 9-2, 5-1 now is plenty short enough for him. I absolutely adore the horse, but I think they've got a lot of work to turn that around, because that wasn't kind of quite chilly rides. He's coming up the hill and getting a comfortable third. He was in the mix for a bit, and then he was going to get really, really tired. Yeah, I'd be a bit worried.
The other one I thought of for Aintree, I think Jerry Calum for the Betway Bowl, if that's the road they go down, probably come down to him or Shishkin, I would imagine. It depends what Shishkin turns up. I think Jerry Calum, we saw last year, I thought he was probably his best performance last season was at Aintree. Not as deep ground as it probably would have been. I think probably Aintree will probably be, and Betway Bowl probably could be right up his street, but there could be a lot in here. El Fabiolo's not going to go to Punchestown, I don't think. I think they're just going to give him as much time as possible.
Yeah, the season off. Betway Bowl, I think that might be like a race for like maybe a Capodanno.
Yeah.
Like that, off the speed of the Ryanair. I think Jerry Killam probably leaned towards Punchestown, but I did expect him to run a big career best there, a 3/4 mile. That I think maybe dropping back to kind of flatter, more conventional tracks might do him for speed. The Gold Cup saw him in his best light. I would say El Fabiolo looks like he's got a kind of sword back. And the thing he was whacking into them low, wasn't he? You'd be a bit surprised if he got him back. Maybe could see him at Punchestown. But yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if he had the summer off.
Next question: how did both guys go on at the festival from both an anti-post and on the week perspective? Calum, I'll be honest, anti-post, I was kind of helped out by Yasmin DeVoe and Masborough we had on in private bets. Fact to file was a big one on the Wednesday. On the week, kind of got into a couple of things. It probably came out in front for both, so relatively happy. What about yourself?
Anti-post book flat, too many non-runners. Even with a lot of non-runner money back, there was still too many. I like Nicky Henderson handicappers for this, and when you've got a yard that are completely out of it, and the ground was softer than ideal for probably spring anti-post punters. So yeah, an immediate trouble, bailed out by a couple of really good places. Tell Me Something Girl was good. Pied Piper placed quite nicely. Captain Guinness without El Fabiolo won, even though El Fabiolo was out there, but it won in a roundabout way, and it was still 8-1. And the big skin saver was T Hooper. T Hooper got my anti-post book to a flat book. On the days, Tuesday, I think everyone had a really good day. I did, played it quite casually, but I had the 1-2s in the Mayor's Hurdle, the Champion Hurdle, had the Supreme Correct, even though I maybe prefer Mystical Power to win over Slade Steel. Ultimately, I got completely wrong, but I got the Boodles completely right. And National Chase was a washout, but that was fine by then. Wednesday was ticking over fine to the El Fabiolo race, which killed all my multi hopes. But I was rescued on the day by Captain Guinness, so I was kind of, shot down and bailed out in the same race. Funnily enough, but I mean that's what festival positions are all about. It's cover and you get it right. You can kind of definitely keep your head above the parapet. Yeah, it does reduce your chances of winning a great deal, but it's all about profit and keeping yourself afloat at times. And tail end of Wednesday was okay, paddling along, and it was threatening to take a bad turn the Thursday. I got the first three completely wrong, like miles away, like really disconcertingly miles away, like not even close, not running well, nothing second, third, nothing. Completely wrong horse for the race, and T Hooper was make or break, and he won easily enough, and expected him to, and then that. But I was happy how it ran out because I had home by the lead, so he saw like the 3, flowed Portland the second, and reading races like that is almost as satisfactory as getting it, is getting the financial benefit of it. So I didn't lose my bottle on the day in T Hooper. I still wode in and did fine. And did shake him up Harry in the plate, and things started to turn quite well. And then Friday was kind of like a ticking over Tuesday day of picking kind of day, and you've got to follow who's in form and who's not, and it's the ground, and you can kind of make bits and bobs there. And I did heavily side with Gallop and Deschamps, and Jerry Colom's a 1-2 as well in the Gold Cup and things like that. And then you've got positions at the end where you kind of lose a bit of interest, but Limerick Lace, reverse forecast with Dino Blue.
I'm still having nightmares.
Just reverse forecast it. Sometimes I think that's when the things the value. You're going should have back one, should have back another. If you can only see beyond those two, just pair them up. You get the same price, and that's what I did quite often on the day, and did quite well. Didn't quite work out in the Martin Pike. Better Days Ahead was the one unexposed one that I didn't really fancy too much, but I had the each week cover in the Fox Hunters as well. Had good places in the county hurdle. Yeah, you just get to stack them up and do well. But yeah, it was flat. It was over the 4 days. It was reasonably good, and it was pushing 4 figures by then.
Yeah, Tuesday was pretty good. Wednesday was fairly good up until El Fabiolo, but Yasmin DeVoe was a good winner. Thursday, Tia Hupu, Cribali would have been a good winner, but just we'll get into that later. Cribali, I just thought jumped horrendous. And Friday, Masborough was a good start, and then Gallop and Deschamps. Dino Blue would have been perfect, but it was just one of those kind of festivals where kind of similar to the past few years. Like, kind of Tuesday, Wednesday have been fairly good. Thursday, you kind of give something back, and Friday you claw some. So it kind of turned out like that. In terms of the festival as a whole, Callum, probably the newsworthy events are fairly there. In terms of competition, excitement, and future, where does this festival sit? How do you look back in this week as a whole in terms of what it's done for horse racing and your own personal excitement?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a festival that is not sure what it wants to be. Does it want quantity or does it want quality? And it seems to be leaning to the former. There are problems in the programme, and there are. I mean, we've seen good handicaps not filling,
Yeah.
things like that. We're seeing kind of horses running in races that they shouldn't be. Horses just dodging other horses because they think they've got a better chance to win the race. I think there's just a bit too many options, and that stuff like needs drastic cutting. But I think there can be kind of tweaks made maybe to improve things. I think the handicap or pants are being pulled down far too often by
Massively.
either ridiculously progressive novices that have been held back, or just horses that are being not off all season to just come back here. Sometimes that's the way the game has been played, but I think there's better ways of maybe going about things. You've got to show some sort of signs of life, I think, before just springing into life and waiting to see the machine go blue, and then you're just either, well, there's no point in me looking at the form in this race. Do I believe that this is a plot job or not, or don't I? And what price do you accept to follow in, and what price you don't? Yeah, so there are problems there. Still find it exciting, I mean, it's just the classic, when they're turning home from Cheltenham and there's a race developing, that there is still that buzz there. I don't think that'll ever disappear. But for kind of casual viewers, I think sometimes you're kind of wondering like what's the appeal. I think there was kind of like a point where Britain were completely on the floor by the middle of Wednesday, and the start of Thursday maybe kind of pet them up a little bit to kind of save the day. Say, well, there is actually a bit of competitiveness here, and Willie Mullins wasn't really incited on the Thursday, so there are kind of gaps and spaces for others that can do things. But yeah, I think by the end, I think people were like betting exclusively in like 4 or 5 different yards or 4 or 5 different owners, restrictive, and it's not easy to get Cheltenham Festival winners, and particularly when same people are winning all the time, and they're giving all the runners as well. Maybe losing its edge a little bit. I mean, Patrick Mullins was just wrote today in the Racing Post that he was kind of embarrassed about the level of success he had. If they're feeling that a little bit internally, what do the rest get to do? There's a bit of kind of, do you limit it a little bit? Yeah, you could, but that's not really
Or
sporting fairness, is it?
do we just go into the completely out of the ordinary and just say, no, we don't want Irish horses at Cheltenham, because that's been reported today. That's madness.
Yeah, that's just a Dr. Richard Newell and things. But I mean, there's some people want the status quo. There's nothing stopping British runners going to Punchestown next week. I mean, there is this kind of element of like inherited stuffiness in the British national hunt
Yeah.
racing scene. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you've got to evolve. You've got to. Maybe sometimes you've got to kind of accept, all right, this guy's a genius. I've got to buck up my ideas here a little bit and maybe perceive it better. Yeah, it's going to be incredibly difficult without supportive owners and decent horses, but you can't just go into battle and just and just give up immediately. That's a bad enough sign. So yeah, while you can have sympathy, you can't feel too sorry for yourself at the same time.
The way, like, and we'll get into Willie Mullins. He'll prop up a lot when we do our overall review. But obviously, this was the kind of milestone festival where he hit 100 winners, and there was some fantastic interviews over the week. But Patrick Mullins actually said something really interesting when he said about, remember when they lost Gigginstown, you were thinking Willie could lose the Trainers' Championship, and could that be the kind of, because he was dominant before then, like he was getting that, like the Richies were like flying with the horses they had, and he lost about 50, 60 horses, and he said that lit a fire in Willie to go out and get the best owners. And look at the owners, the spread of owners he's got is remarkable. Like he's built some really good connections. But one thing that I kind of thought during the week is, like, you're looking at there's a lot of owners out there that aren't with Willie, that are spending a lot of money, like the Hales have had good winners. I mean, Rob Coore had 2 winners. There's owners there that aren't with Willie that are spending money. And you just wondered, is this the week where they go, right, this guy's dominating the boards and he's making it all about him? And fair enough. I mean, when you look at the Willie Mullins yard, I mean, this isn't Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins hasn't been dominating forever. I mean, there was training at the train before he really kind of got the Richies and like the likes of obviously the Wileys before even that. He's lost the Wileys as well. Let's not kid ourselves. But he's not always been dominant. No Mead was fairly hammering him in the Trainers' Championship before the kind of 2010s. I mean, I think I'm right in saying I think he only about 15 winners before the 2010s at Cheltenham. So it's all recent, but
it's evolved though, isn't it? I mean, it's not just about training. It's sourcing horses. It's buying the right horses. It's connecting with owners. It's if the whole sport's kind of narrowing and he's got this ingenuity to branch out, he goes to France. He can breed his own mares at home. He could go to France, source out the right horses. He's got the right agents. He's got the right bloodstock mountains. He's got the right jockeys. He's got the right stable staff. He's got the right gallops. I mean, everything's there for him to expand bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, there are other people there that can aspire to, but I think you're looking at the young crowd that have maybe got that burning desire to say, like, I want to change the narrative. I don't. No knock it. I mean, Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls are probably great trainers, but I don't really see them being the desperate ones in Britain to kind of spearhead a charge of going, I'd want to kind of do yourselves justice at Cheltenham Festival. I think you're looking at kind of fresh languages, Ben Pongs of the world, Dan Skelton's, maybe Harry Derham later on. These kind of trainers that need support, the young ones, maybe they're the ones now, and maybe they need to step up and have a maybe changing the guard kind of thinking about it. I mean, Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls, generally pretty poor festival. John Joe O'Neill yard, these old established yards, they're done. Yeah. It's archaic in comparison to what the likes of Willie Mullins is doing. Gordon Elliot's the same. Henry de Vromhead peaks him really well for this. Gavin Cromwell, is very consistent with what he has to offer. I think they kind of know what they're doing while, and particularly behind the scenes of the way they prep things. I think they're kind of maybe a bit more alert, and I think Paul Nicholls and he's kind of trainer championship central, isn't he? He's kind of like, I probably expect a good Paul Nicholls domination at Aintree. That's fine. The prize money is as good as Aintree as it is at Cheltenham. He's got better going to war with his best horses there than at Cheltenham to win the Trainers' Championship. It's what is different people's prerogatives. What do they want to achieve in the sport? And Willie Mullins is not sitting there going, well, I just hope that this happens again last year. Willie Mullins will want to go. Maybe Willie Mullins will think, well, we'll want to emulate Don Run. I want to do what my dad did and change a champion hurdle winner. It's a Gold Cup winner as well. Maybe I can go for the Britain's Championship title. Things like that. There's always going to be a way. He always wants more and more and more. And, if you don't have that desire to match him, you've got no chance.
No, and I think that's the thing as well. Like, I thought over the week, I said, surely there's a British trainer, a British owner going, right, we need to look at this and go, yeah, the card, I mean, we spoke a lot about the kind of racing structure in Britain is not good, and we've said that, and I don't think that's going to change over the next few years. But there must be a fuel in the fire, like with Willie when Gigginstown left and when kind of certain owners were leaving. There was a fire there to do what he's doing now. And he's had to, it's not just a case of Willie Mullins has received all this horses. He's had to build up phenomenally well. I mean, he would go years with maybe the winner of the bumper and that was it. And now he'll be raging if he doesn't get 10 winners. So it's a building process and you see the kind of the improvement in the yard. There must be trainers in Britain thinking, right, we can get there, but we need the back and we need the horses. The best line of the week was, I don't know if you've seen the interview with Tom Malone, brilliant bloodstock agent. He said the champion bumper, the second and third, Romeo Coolio, Jalon Duderie, Paul Nicholls was the underbidder. That's the problem in itself. They're losing these horses to. I'm not saying that Romeo Coolio and Jalon Duderie, but they're not going the extra step to get these horses. And that, I think, is the bigger
because they don't have the money, I mean, they don't, I mean, they don't have the money and the support. I mean, you've got the head of Newmarket, Richard Thompson, the Allaho yard. I mean, they're based in Newmarket. You'd be thinking, oh, well, I want to see my horses. I'll find someone in Britain to do it. They go to Ireland. It's the big hitters with the big money that just want Cheltenham Festival winners. And Willie Mullins, if he keeps winning all the time, you're going to send it with him. You're not matter what you're going to pay. You're not going to make money out of these horses anyway. They're geldings. There's no resale value to them. You're there to pay top dollar for what your racing advisor said that's the best horse, and who are you going to send it to? The best trainer, which right now is Willie Mullins. That will never change.
No.
Stuff like that will never change. It's cyclical and things like that. And maybe one year Willie Mullins might have a bug that Nicky Henderson gets, and maybe some owners think again. I might send a couple to somebody else and things like that. But they're not obliged to, for the sake of the sport, spread their horses around.
No.
They want to win, and the best way of winning is send them to Willie Mullins at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll get into the Cheltenham Festival review, Calum. We've got 28 races to talk about. We're going to talk about the grade ones from each day as a whole, and then we'll kind of club together the handicaps. We'll start with the opening race, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Calum, I'm not ashamed to say it, I got it wrong. I didn't think Slade Steele would win. I thought Slade Steele, to be fair, ran a great race. The one I take away from this is I thought Mystical Power and ground he wouldn't like. I thought ran a stormer.
Yeah, on the 1-2 back the wrong one, primarily did have like Cullen Slade Steele because he was the only horse that Grade 1 form coming into this. He was sent to Ballyburn, and you're thinking the ground, rearing as much as it was, playing in his favour, and he was strong before the off, and he did it nicely. He'll be a chaser next season. Pretty convincing effort, and even though he bungled the last, he overhauled Mystical Power and outstayed him in the running. He ran really well, jumped quite well, carted into it nicely. A race between him and Ballyburn at Punchestown would be pretty good, him and Mystical Power. I think Firefox was quite unlucky as well, back from third. He was never getting to the top two, but maybe a trip over further, he might come into better light, but he was kind of messed about with coming down the hill, and he couldn't really get a clear run. And Mr. Giff was there for quite some way. Backed out of it the last, probably because of a lack of experience. He might be the one they take to entry. I don't know, out the Mullins battalion, to get more experience, if anything else.
Would you think of Tully Hill, because you watch that race and you watch it back, probably the best he's ever jumped, but it just didn't work.
Too soon a turnaround, then bombed out, didn't he? It's only 2.5 weeks since that, 3 weeks tops. Worked quite well. Maybe something amiss at the hill, but he probably over-raced early on. He's going to be better over fences next season, isn't he? He might improve. He looks like a kind of Turner's type. Problem is, so is Ballyburn. So again, you'll have this conversation where they split them up next season potentially. Right,
moving into the Arkle, Callum. I don't think we were going into the festival thinking Gaelic Warrior was on our radar. They put the hood on him. The only worry you had was the gamble was frightening. I mean, it went into 2-1, off 2-1 favourite. Very rarely in an Arkle do you think after two fences that the race is done. The way he was pinging the first two fences and the way he just looked to settle, I mean, it looked over as a contest, and he went on to be probably one of the best winners of the week.
Yeah, it panned out brilliantly, didn't it, for him? It was a 160 performance, and if he jumps straight and he's on song, he's gonna win. Drop back and trip worked well after being completely legless the last day and the fear of jumping right, but be going quicker and really bad ground suits him, and just ping, and the hood worked and things like that. The start of this was a farce, quite like so I was expecting it last. I mean, the top four were there, the top four all the whole way. LAT Tom, the only one that kind of made a little bit of ground there, but if you weren't front ranking that, it was curtains.
He jumped terrible, LAT Tom.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have scope, does he? He's that small. You're kind of surprised he's making it quite well for a chaser. He probably wants a bit further now anyway. He's kind of more of a 2.5 miler. Found the 50. He's kind of a solid kind of low 150 type. He's probably grade 2 material going down. Matata ran well from the front. Not quite grade 1 class, neither's GPR1. Hunter's Yarn probably also lacks a bit of potential. Was trying to get into it, then Daryl Jacob carted them madly down the hill. Sweeping like 6 wide when they're all going backwards to him anyway. It just kind of blew him up there anyway. My mate Mosey didn't like the ground.
No.
And Colexios, I think that was probably quite forgivable given he lost about 10 lengths at the start, was rushed up to try and make ground, and then, understandably backed out of it. So, yeah, now he's kind of favourite for the Ryanair, pretty prominent champion chase. And he's jumping straighter now, and he seems like a unit that can really take his racing quite well. He's just improved for fences. There's a bit of York Hill about him. There's this kind of, he could potentially do anything, but, he could blow out in anything. And, that's why 2-1 didn't really appeal to me at the off, even though Sea Blue suggested that it was Curtains, and it will be if he's all right on the day. But he's a horse that you're going to take short prices about, for pretty much the rest of his career, and don't be surprised if he gets stung on the odd occasion. But yeah, you might go to Fairyhouse by all accounts, which is a really quick turnover. But generally, he does take his racing in quite well. Trip-wise, I think if it's decent ground, he'll have to run the Ryanair. And I think if it's bottomless ground, he could take his chance again and repeat what he tried to do in the Champion Chase. I think bad ground seems to be very important to him as well. That seems to kind of straighten him up.
Yeah, it's not the first time we're going to have different debates for Willie Mullins horses next year, but that's kind of what the level of depth he has. On to the Champion Hurdle, Callum. State Man got the job done. I don't think we'll go out on a limb and say it was the most impressive performance we'll see in a Champion Hurdle. He got the job done. I thought Irish Point ran a really good race. Lucia, who I know was on your radar, actually ran a storm on third. But in terms of the winner, State Man, what do you think? Like, what else can he do over hurdles? I was going to kind of throw a theory your way about potentially he could be the one to go novice chasing next season, and Ballyburn is probably the most likely horse to beat Constitution Hill. But in terms of what he's got his Champion Hurdle, what else can he really do?
Yeah, I mean, just keep plundering the Irish races over and over again. He's just a solid, reliable Grade 1 performer. I think he was going to pull out more regardless from Irish Point. Yeah, it was a bit workmanlike. It wasn't flashy. But that's what he's like. He's never going to win by that far. And he did what I expect him to do. I think he finds this track a little bit sharp. I don't think he enjoys the undulations too much. I think he'd be much suited to the new course. The Irish Point was a bit more balanced than him, but he had the speed when it mattered, and it didn't really look too much in doubt. As I kind of hinted at the preview, I think there is going to be the odd kind of palpitation with him around here, even though he is two superior numbers to really lose. He's just done the job. It's a kind of 162 rated hurdle, but he will be remembered for winning probably one of the worst Champion hurdles in recent memory. You've got a 3 miler arguably in second, and Lucia, it was rated 140 coming into acting in bad ground in a stable that bombed out all year. If it was a bit braver, the forecaster may have stick her in, but Zarek the Brave wanted better ground. Colonel Mustard and the Mean Lion are representing Kingwell form and Not So Sleepy's 12. And Iberico Lord didn't turn up after being supplemented. So yeah, an Irish Point was reasonable 92. So it was a simple forecast play in Irish Point. As you said, I think entry looks obvious. I think he's probably ran his mark 159, 160 odd. You have to give State Man 162. Give away £7. Interesting if he meets Lossiemouth at Punchestown or something at the end of the season, because that would give you maybe something slightly different. I kind of said Turner's last season for him. Apparently he schooled really badly over the summer and they kind of kiboshed it. You're kind of having this debate, when Perry passed last year as well, and what happened to him. And I think it's much more likely Ballyburn goes over fences than hurling. So I think he's just going to stay there. And I think, he's a reliable kind of mid-160s, high 160s form in a weak division. He's capitalising on it really, really well. So, yeah, easy to knock him. But, he keeps winning. And, there's better horses than him that have blotted their copybook and he doesn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of the Mayor's Hurdle, Calum Lossiemouth, I thought travelled really well. Really good performance. You can argue that she was entitled to do it. I thought she handled the trip well. There was a bit of doubt in the morning that she might not. I think she was out 45, I think I seen at points. Back into 8 to 13 and she won this really well. And she looks to be a class horse.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 153, it's 7, 160 should have been within 2 lengths in a Champion Hurdle, I would think, a worst case scenario. Travel powerfully, right at the back, smooth headway, easy, simple. Win by 3 lengths. Beat the second that I like to tell me something girl who I did fancy to run a career best. I think she had more class in a lot of these, and she proved it. He absolutely tanked into it, just bad ground, could have did it for toe a little bit, but that was a borderline 150 performance. The rest of them, are really exposed and pulled up. They didn't have much chance, and it's not an inspiring division. And I think if they made it a Grade 2, it would allow the best horses to carry a £5 penalty, and your top mares should be getting 7, and you've almost got a stone swing either way, and that should give more incentive for the better mares to run in the better kind of races. But yes, she did it nicely. She did hit 8 to 11 at one point, and we've been monitoring markets for weeks and weeks and weeks. that was unbelievable. She should have went off 1-2. She went off 8-13.
Do you think
And
that
it
was
was
just
actually,
out? Do you think that was just out a bit of trap?
it's just on the day.
Yeah.
Bookies will go after them on the day. You know, they saw State Man kind of lumber over the line. Say, well, maybe this was meant to be less convincing than State Man. You know, there's a stamina hold to poking her. And the bookies kind of went, we can maybe take this one on more after seeing that. And, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, it's, you know, we can watch it for like 18, 20 weeks. It only develops in the last 20, 25 minutes before the off sometimes. And she got to a price where it was, you know, all full steam ahead, and, you know, she duly delivered and won easily.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the National Hunt Chase, Calum. We got this wrong. Corbett's Cross, really, really good performance. Beat Embassy Gardens. Corbett's Cross just very, very straightforward in comparison to what we've seen. Salvatore Zagat Ground just went against them completely. Apple away, she made a really bad mistake actually. I think she pecked at one. But in terms of the winner, Corbett's Cross, probably would have been the biggest threat to Fact to File. Again, I think this race needs a massive rethink.
It needs binned, quite simply. You know, about having, you know, the role of honour now in this are horses that could Galvin, Statler, Galdem, and Neil Corbett's Cross. I think those four could have done themselves justice comfortably in a Brown advisory. It's a nonsense since they changed the rule, where it was kind of all these kind of 4 mile pluses and things like that, and they've done it for welfare reasons, and now it's boring. Embassy Gardens, an indifferent round of jumping in it out, you know, and he still doesn't settle. He's too fizzy for a festival, isn't he? You know, maybe
especially the trip as well. I thought the trip, just when he was the way he was, I was like, I didn't have doubts at the start. Corbett's Cross was the one that the class could have got
far
through.
Superior.
Yeah.
The two of them are so far superior that the trip is inconsequential.
Yeah.
Once you go a sensible pace, it's inconsequential. It didn't matter what trip it was. They were going to win, and I think that's kind of what kind of did us in here a little bit, because you could maybe pick holes and say, "Oh, well, stamina must be a concern for this." It doesn't matter.
No,
and it's amateur riders. You know, it doesn't matter. It was set up for them nicely. They were off the pace. You know, they hang back off the pace now. You know, I mean, so I know the way you think. You know, they just hang back and you know, we'll let them tear it up, and we'll just come through to will, and we'll be safer jumping and spot a stride and lob along. You know, they hack around in the cross country as well, where stamina doesn't really come into play. It can come into a dash. You know, it's borderline nonsensical now. You know, that horse, Corbett's Cross, could be a national type down the line. You know, I think that was maybe a 153 performance, something like that. Embassy Gardens to settle. You know, he did have an irregular heartbeat reported afterwards. But yeah, his jumping was sound. He looks more maybe of an Irish national project later on, but you know, a race like that, it's maybe a quick turnaround. Can see where they go, but you know, it's Emmett Mullen, so they can campaign him as he likes. You know, wouldn't be surprised if we flung him in a Punchestown Gold Cup. You know, he's done that before. So yeah, it's kind of wait and see, but he's definitely an exciting horse. Let's just hope he's running in more exciting races than this.
Yeah, 2 handicaps on the Tuesday. Chianti Classico, big winner. Really, really happy with that. A brilliant performance from David Bass on him. Right horses came to the floor in that. Meeting of the Waters and the Goffer actually ran quite well. Lark in the Morning and the Boodles, Callum, I think we all thought, I mean, even the O'Brien team thought that this horse wouldn't last in the ground. Wins at 9-1 when he's been, 4-5-1 all for the past couple of months. Shows you what can happen. But in terms of the handicaps, what were your takeaways for the opening day?
Yeah, one I got completely right and one I got completely wrong. Chianti Classico, when I was another Kimberley horse. I mean, the two that had leading claims, but I didn't. When he get beat by Phlegmatic, I didn't quite like that performance. You know, but you should know that he's been kept back for this, and he's won it. He's won it fairly convincingly. You know, fallen a bit of lengths from Twig. Never looked in doubt. Always in the right position, prominent. And Trelawn came to grief, you know, really, really early on. Get an innocuous slip. He's got a cut. I think it'll be fine for next season, which is a good thing. Another horse, obvious to take out if it was Meeting in the Waters. You know, I mean, he's probably a Grand National player, isn't he? The way he kind of boxed on, big weights, you know, reasonable effort. He just get kind of left behind after the second last, and then boxed on again. Couldn't quite get into terms because the winner was jumping lovely and in too much of a rhythm, and they kind of got away, and he almost came back and get second. The Goffer again did well, just didn't get home again that ground. The ground kind of went against him.
Yep.
You know, and the rest were kind of well exposed, weren't they? So yeah, it fits the bill of this kind of typical kind of novice, British progressive novice that can go really well in this company, and I'm interested what he does next. If he goes to Aintree quite quickly, but I imagine he's not done his prize. That might be him for the season.
Yeah. What about the Boodles?
Yeah, I mean, Lark in the Morning. I mean, he's been the best handicapped horse for it quite consistently. I think he was top of the market, and then all of a sudden, we're worried about the ground. All his runs are on bad ground. It's been bad ground all season. Yeah, he's going to be better and better ground, but he's well handicapped. You might as well take your chance. And he went out to a price that was reasonable enough to get involved, and he's kept it wide and reasonable ground, and he's dotted up. The third in Dowie wanted better ground. I quite liked him as well, and he went out to 12s, and you think that's reasonable enough because he was going to run his race if they're going to take the chance. So yeah, I thought those two were the obvious ones that were coming out of it. Milantino just didn't have the speed. Obviously well in, maybe in Sergino line, but if it was a new course, I think it'd be more interesting. He was kind of there early on, and then he just get left behind. Lark in the Morning's got a turn of foot, and Dowie has a little bit of a turn of foot. And Bread Fassa shaped really well until tiring in the background. He's absolutely tanking through it at the top of the hill. Get caught out. So he might be the one, if they can get him reasonably fine after that, for the Aintree equivalent on better ground, a flatter track. But yeah, I mean, all the right ones came to the fore for me. And again, it's just market watch, I mean, Lark in the Morning, you'd be amazed he went off at 9s. It's a bit like Aramax all over again, really, wasn't it? He's the one that's top of the market all there, and he goes down and wins. Absurd was the same in the County Hurdle, for instance. Top of the market a long time.
That was a bad one.
Ground thinks goes against, wins. So it's stuff like that. Well, when you are monitoring markets, and I mean, it was a race I had no opinion on really till the day. You just monitor the market and say, well, that's been top of the market. It's drifting because of bad ground, but it's all ran bad ground. He obviously thinks well handicapped. It's the trainer, knows what he's doing. If they're going to take a chance to fall in, that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Wednesday. We only had 6 races. Obviously, the cross country was abandoned. We'll start with the Gallagher novices hurdle. Calum Ballyburn put in a very, very good performance. Willie, the first 5 in the Gallagher, which again kind of tells its own story. But in terms of the winner, Ballyburn, he was entitled to beat what he beat, but it was very, very impressive.
It's a fantastic performance. He probably would have won the Bartlett as well. He could have went anywhere. He was one of those horses that you could probably put in anywhere at the moment, and he could probably deliver. He's jumped brilliantly. It's handy enough. In your eye was always kind of drawn to him, and there wasn't really a moment's worry. El Atlantique was maybe trying to creep into at the same time, and you're thinking there might be a race on here, but would he have settled that well in an even bigger field, for instance? If it was a proper kind of cavalry charge that would have tested his stamina, they didn't go overly quick, which kind of suited him, and he's just had to stay out of trouble and lob along and then quicken away and up the hill. But it's a 7-runner race, and the trainers had 5 of them, and you've got to pin down the form as a result of that. Yeah, it's a 162, but visually it looks good, and it was 9.5 seconds quicker than the Coral Cup. But you're turning around and saying, well, what is he beating here? 60-61 stablemate, a third that is, not settled at the back. Actually restraining it at Atlantique didn't work. I think he's probably more of a prominent 2 mile on that. Predator's Gold didn't jump well at all.
No.
He the second best form coming into it. He only had 3 credible contenders to take, and the 2 Brits, understandably bombed out. What is he beating? And what's he going to do in the future? I mean, there's still that kind of unknown about him, and he's maybe been anointed as world class a bit too soon. But he was wickedly impressive. But if he didn't have this option, you would have had Slade Steele been up against Mystical Power, Firefox. I think these horses should be running in a top class Grade 1 over 2 miles as a curtain raiser of Cheltenham Festival. This is, it's intermediate. It's intermediate guff, really. He's beat a 66-1 stablemate that's probably improved a little bit. And, he's ran Ballyburn to 160s. But I don't think we necessarily knew anything more than we did at Leopardstown. He was equally spectacular there. He was, equally visually impressive there. I just want to see him maybe race against maybe better options, or maybe his that vastly superior. But I think we'd have learned a lot more if he was beating better horses in a bigger field. And you've learned, well, you just lob out handy and keep it simple on him, and he's never going to be asked a question.
Right. There's been talk over the past few. Willie Mullins again saying that he could win a champion hurdle, he could win a Gold Cup, he could do them both. This time, well, when we can I get the ball rolling again for the new season, Callum, where do you think Ballyburn will run next year at Cheltenham right now?
I'll give you a rundown of what's going to happen. There'll be predictable talk about Champion Hurdle to the end of the season. You'll win at Punchestown. There'll still be talk about Champion Hurdle. We'll go next week. The week after that, they'll announce he'll go over fences, and he'll start over 2 miles, and he'll run into tunnels where he'll probably run against 7 other horses, 5 of them his own, and win at 1-2 again. And that is exactly what's going to happen. And you know, he's 72 for the tunnels for a reason. You know, he is the shortest for that. It just looks obvious. It looks. I think it'll be like galloping to shop again. The way they campaign him, I do think it'll be a bit like that. I'd expect him over fences. He's got enough options in Champion Hurdle. Particularly if Lossiemouth takes her chance. You know, Absurd's a very good horse. You've got the defending champion in State Man. You don't know what Constitution Hill is going to do, and whether he will go south or not. Then you will have no need to run Ballyburn there. Maybe you will if you've got everyone else in Constitution Hill doesn't do well, and you could do a dawn run. But you know, I think there's just going to be a lot of chatter about it, and they'll send him over fences, and they'll go for the safe 2.5 mile option because it's in the new course, and I think there's kind of less jeopardy in it. And I think he's bought to be a Gold Cup horse, and I think that's the route you want to go. He was also not 5 like Impera Pass was, where you can maybe be inclined to waste another year. Not waste another year, but maybe stay another year at hurdling, you know. Assuming he gets a clear run, you know, if you go champion hurdle at 7 and then novice chasing at 8, then you've only really got one crack at the Gold Cup at 9. 10's telling you that you're a bit too old now for that. So yeah, I would send him novice chasing, because you've got Galloping to Shop now, you'll Factory File next season, then you've got this guy coming along right after their heels. So you know, it's all there, it's all in place. I don't see him breaking up the schedule. What I will say is he's better than Perry Pass.
Yeah,
he will make a much better impact in open company, and you know, he is an exciting horse to. He's an exciting horse to follow, but the way he's mapped out and the way it's been programmed means I just can't quite get as massively excited about him as we should be.
a horse that really, really caught the eye. I thought I put in a really, really good performance was Fact to File, big winner for the anti-post book. 5-1 winner into 8-13 on the day. Jumped a wee bit right, to be fair. I think this was the one was just the way the day was developing, but I was a bit panicky in the early stages, and then just put in some good jumps at the last 2, won the race. I think you can argue he was entitled again to beat what was in behind Stay Away Faye. Just really, I think scope dirty, so you can make excuses for him.
Yeah.
Fact to File, Callum. The only worry I've got with this is Brown advisory horses going into the next season. It's very rarely do they go on and really fulfill the potential. But I think Fact to File is potentially, if he keeps sound, could be a really, really good horse for the future.
Yeah, he's 4-1 for next season's Gold Cup, isn't he? You know, again, questioned, did he beat an under-par Gaelic Warrior? Maybe did he pound him into submission the way going? He's got a lot of pace, you know, at the back. He was really keen, you know, really raw, jumped right at the odd time. But I think Mark Walsh did really well to kind of switch him off enough at the back. And, you know, but let's use our pace as an asset here and pick them off down the hill. Yep. That's what he did. And Monty Starr kind of came back a little bit up the hill at him, but he was always keeping him, you know, 3-4 lengths ahead. Probably could have pulled out more. And, you know, another season learning and freshening up and settling means he's going to be a massive player in a Gold Cup, particularly if it's a decent ground Gold Cup where he can actually utilise his speed. If it's a bog, you'd be a bit kind of concerned about his stamina, maybe jumping right a little bit, and he will probably get outpointed by the likes of Jerry Colm Galloping to Shop. But, you know, he's got some serious tactical speed in his, on his doorstep. Yeah, and you know, the young horse coming up, I think he's a lot more exciting than he's already achieved a lot more than Jerry Colm did.
Yeah.
This season, and you know, he's made the step up. The Gold Cup, Manila Indo made the step up. You know, Alaho made the step up to a whole degree at 2.5. But they do make the step up when they meet it right. And yeah, he was very impressive coming down. It was absolutely carting along, and that's a serious sign of a horse with major potential. I was wondering, was he quite the finished article yet? He's going from maybe beat early doors by American Mike, who didn't turn up. Then when a 2-runner race and then into this and not having a kind of hurdling season in between. So he's still kind of entitled to be this big, fresh and raw horse. And in fact, he's still winning at this level and easily as well. And the trainer thinks the world of him as well. That's automatic respect. 3-1 Galopin Des Champs, 4-1 Fact to File. It's an interesting
He's the only
prospect
horse
right
that can beat. He's the only horse that can beat Galopin Des Champs next year.
No, I mean, you've got to see how Galopin Des Champs can come out of that. That's the second attritional Gold Cup he's won. Jerry Colombe's got 22 lengths closer than he did the last day. How more can you go in bad ground like that? I think he's borderline unbeatable in heavy ground like that in a Gold Cup distance. Let's make no mistake, but better ground, I think he's jumping a wee bit stickier. And it's like a Fact to File or like bang there to kind of go by him. So I gave it 158. I'm still. You've got to kind of say like Monty Stallion. He's really well. He's rated 147, so he was in to run a career best. I think he did. He jumped well. He could be a player next season.
Mm-hmm.
The way he does a bit. There's a lot of Manilondo about him, isn't there? And
Mm-hmm.
Mona Lee and likes of that. That blood type, and they do improve. And he's very unexposed. But American might, bombed out. Almost borderline lost his action for me. He had a really good run the last day. It was a bad run. You'll come back into form the next day and things like that. And the next highest rated horse, Faye, was never really going.
No.
Cheap pieces to sharpen him up. I think he's lost a bit of scope over fences. I mean, you can see him maybe reverting back to hurdles or something like that. It was all very laboured and all very hard work. Scottish Grand National, I think, is actually the plan for him, interestingly, off top weight. So he might be worth another chance in that down the line. But yeah, the winner's very, very good in the second. He's got a lot of potential, and Giovinco ran quite well in third. Pick up the pieces, probably a career best, maybe 152, something like that. There's a horse there as well, so it's form you can definitely take positively. That's 158. He's still got that kind of good 15 to 20 pound buffer to make in Galopin Des Champs. But Jerry Colombe showed it's possible, and you give him more of a chance than Jerry Colombe.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Champion Chase, Calum, and there's something about 2-9 favourites for this race that just doesn't work out. El Fabiolo went off. Obviously, John Bond didn't turn up. Calum, El Fabiolo, how do we assess? Because obviously, looking at the race, watching the race, but I've watched it a few times. Jumps the first three fences really poor. Jumps the fourth well, and then fifth, you see what happens. He makes that mistake. Obviously, he's hurt his back, and I think Paul Townend just decided, right, our day's not the day. We'll be back here next year, and done the sensible thing and pulled him up. And it allowed Rachel Blackmore to pick up the pieces, and Captain Guinness get the job done. Starting well, Fabiolo, Calum. What were you thinking? I know a lot of us were in multiples, and the bookmakers get out of trouble.
Yes.
What do you think?
It's just 2 mile championship chase, and if you're out of sync early doors, it's really hard to recover. It's impossible. Because it's not what John won the last day. He missed the first and low, and if you're out of sync, there's no recovery time to catch up. Just because of the pace that they're going. Edelson went handy early on, jumped quite cleanly and efficiently, and it was maybe a shade too quick for El Fabio early doors, but he was low at the first. He wasn't for a cut at them, and if you're out of rhythm, then that's what's going to happen. And it's the nature of the race. It's kind of a graveyard for. Like Defi de Soy had it, and they're always beaten very early out. Duvan, Min, Shishkin. It's a long list. Spinter Sacre beating once and things like that. It just happens, and when you're out of rhythm, it's very, very hard to recover because of the pace you're going, and you're done for. He's gotten away with it in the past, and you'd expect him to get away with it again, and if he did, he would have won. I mean, he's hammered Captain Guinness regularly. They've not put up a great figure there, but it's 161 at best form. You've got Patton on Stair that was ridden to the pieces and Gentleman to me second, and Edwardson had ran his race by the time he came down, and he was booked for third, really. So what he did was tactically correct and getting the winner beat, but it didn't help his chances at all. And Captain Guinness, it's great to actually see him get a grade 1 because consistent horses like him in a division that can cut up and has a tendency to cut up. If you're sound and reliable enough and you keep pitching in there, you will get grade 1s in this sport, and he's got one at the highest level at the age of 9. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of these things. El Fabio didn't jump well. Maybe stiffness at the back. Maybe he was not quite at it. Maybe a bit lame or something like that, and that's what's kind of contributed to it. But yeah, it wasn't the quite a lot of these horses. Just something. It's just not a going day, and there's certain races where you can get away with it. Not over 2 miles and over fences in a Grade 1. That's not the place to be, no matter how superior you are in figures.
Right, we'll move into the champion bumper at 5:30, Callum. It was won by Jasmine DeVoe. Got a really good ride for Patrick Mullins. Just sat in the rear, made headway in the roughly 7 furlongs out, and kept on well. Beat 2 decent Elliott horses in Romeo Coolio and Jalon Duderie. What do you think? Who do you take away for the bumper?
Any of them really, bumpers are not kind of my buy. I just kind of follow the Leopardstown form of, you ought to know, and maybe the yellow clay, but I switched the yellow clay to Jalon de Dairies. I think Jasmine DeVoe, Patrick Mullins out at the back, right at the far rail, where, when it's bottomless ground like that, normally you've got a better chance of getting some decent enough ground in the wide outside. And he rode Factor File like that last year. And he's come up there. Romeo Coolio and Jalon de Dairies, I think I've gone for home a little bit too soon, and they've softened each other up, and he's coming with a wet sail and one quite handling the line. The performance was good. He did have this kind of really good debut line. You'd think lack of experience might worry him a little bit, but he settled nicely at the back. He's a tightly knit kind of horse. You'd probably think maybe shades of Imperi Pass, something like that, maybe a Gallica. Maybe I think you'd pigeonhole him as a 2.5 mile at the moment. I thought Romeo Coolio really weakened the bet and suggested that the ground was totally unsuitable for him, and he was down the inner, which you'd imagine be the worst patch of it. Travelled into it brilliantly. I thought he was the one that really did catch the eye to me, and then understandably flattened out a little bit, but he's boxed on reasonably well. He's a point winner, but he might be a kind of supreme type. And Jalon today, he was brilliantly placed, smooth. He just got tapped for toe a little bit when the race developed. When he was in front, firstly by stablemate and then by the winner on the outside, and he was outflanked, and he wouldn't have been in great ground either. I think he's going to solid type horse. He'll improve for next season. And you think he's probably a 2.5 miler or a 3 miler as well. Fishery Lane sounds victorious in behind as well. Plodded on to good effect, probably Bartlett types, I would think. And the others, quite a few of them didn't sell. Fleury Festival didn't. Shaped all right. The rest probably went further. Tishan didn't settle. He burned over. And then there was this bizarre gamble for Bill Joyce, who was looking at the machine going, where's this horse coming? He's like way down in your betting list. And all of a sudden you're seeing like 8s alongside like 40, 50 chances. But he never he never got involved at all. But they must think something of him to keep in mind maybe for next season. But it was also John Janelle Yard. He didn't really have a great time of things as well recently, and it was. I found it a bit of a bizarre gamble. It was enough to kind of place late, to be honest. I was like, what's going on here? I don't see that, and maybe kind of pushing against the tide a little bit with that. But yeah, it seemed much. I didn't think much of it in truth beforehand. I was a bit disappointed with how the yellow clay and you ought to know form line of Leopardstown, the graded bumper came out of it, didn't reflect too well. And yeah, it could be another year where the best ones are at Punchestown or staying at home. The likes of like the William Moneys of the world, you'd probably lean towards them for like Supremes rather than maybe some of them that turned up there.
Or that infamous Gowran Park bumper that will produce potentially 2 novices for next season, but we'll get into that maybe later on in the year. The 2 handicaps on the Wednesday were won by, it's really difficult not to laugh here because I know what's coming, were won by the Skelton horses. Coral Cup was won for the second year in a row by Langer Dan. Callum, I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, I've said all I don't want to say. I'm just going to leave the floor to you for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, Stewart's going to call any of that. He's been beaten out of sight all the time. He's had ulcers, he's bled. He's not been off. He's got back to his old mark after winning the last race with not really getting the sufficient height that it deserved. And, there's a sea of blue 40 minutes before the off, and he wins even easier than the last day. There's ways to get horses handicapped. I think you've got to show a little bit of something than just brazenly not trying and making stuff up and really pulling the wool over people's eyes all season. It's it's not quite. I mean, there's Ronan McAnally's of the world that have been suspended for less than that. It is nonsensical. It's just a mild talking to, and that's it. Yeah, but he has won it really well. I was in Chan Ballykin, he was swinging nicely, and he ran well for third. Nick Henderson didn't fire. That was the first Nick Henderson also actually fancied was Dory the Great, and he did breeze into it and inside, and then the hill just stopped all, didn't it? And it stopped him, and I was thinking, and Henderson probably the same, going, this is curtains for us this week, and that had no chance, because I think that was the best handicapped horse.
I think that was the race that ruled out Sergino. That was the point, I think, that it was just like, it's no our week.
Yeah, and he ran his best handicapped horses for the sake of it, because you can. In graded races, it's not really a go-to thing. But yeah, look, he's won. The thing is, people make the same comparisons to, I know the way you're thinking, the Thursday winners and Larkin and Mora, things like that, and going, well, they're obviously been held back and absurd and better days ahead. What's the difference there? They're young novices that have been kind of, at least you can say,
and it's not as blatant as what that was.
You can improve it up and trip and things like that. Yeah, it doesn't sit right with a lot of people, but certain punters that have cottoned on and would have won that won't care. And
I mean, Skelton's talking in that lock. Skelton's talking in that lock that he wants to go at the entry hurdle. Like, all of a sudden, he's a Grade 1 horse again. Like, it's
well, but the thing is, he should be. I mean, the handicapper. I mean, you can blame Dan Skelton for all you like, but I mean, the handicapper's got to kind of see through it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to kind of. If he's shaped up like instead of like 9th or 11th one day, or pulled up at 40, I mean, the betting's telling you he's not off.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, but does the handicapper just look at distances beaten and just drops people? Does he look at form? Does he look at prices? Does he look at circumstance? Does he look at what the horse's back form last year is? You've got to kind of weight them a little bit accordingly. The handicapper's becoming a bit like referees, where they can make poor decisions, but they are kind of being bashed about now these days. And that one was kind of hiding in plain sight. But it's foolish. I mean, you cannot back it out of morality reasons. But there'll be plenty of people that say this is just ridiculous. They see a bit of blue on the board and then they dive in. And horse racing can be like that. It's not even at the top level. It's not all kind of clean cut. That's the way you handicap horses. You've got to get them down.
Well, the perfect example is with Grand Daniel. I mean, he wins that with Unexpected Party, who, if you watch the last race where he was 9th in that race with Ginny's Destiny, you're thinking, how's this horse going to win a handicap at Cheltenham? Drops him back down in trap, and you see the benefits, and that's the way to do it. I have no issue with that.
That's fine. Yeah.
What it does do is, I don't think I've ever backed the winner at Grand Daniel. Ever.
Question. Maybe back to 1 year Paul Nicholls won it. But yeah, it's a good kind of decade ago now. Solar Impulse. I backed Solar Impulse at 28 to 1 in 2016. But yeah, that is the last time. That was 28, so I was probably overdue not picking it again for the last 8. But yeah, he's been pulled in because of what happened to Langer. They're not really for that. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I think ground's a valid excuse, but I think when you're playing fast and loose with his health, and obviously being not off in the betting telling you that, and I think it's a little bit. I mean, you can have the odd excuse. I don't think he'd be like 5 or 6 when interviewed afterwards about it as well. It's a list as length as your arm sometimes, because you know what's going on and it happens. But there is this clamour of like when the Brits do it, it's morally seen and sniffed down it. When Ireland do it, they're kind of pulled out as kind of heroes a little bit, and that's the way to do it. And old GPs at it and things like that. So it's consistency of the handicapper. If they don't spot it, they don't spot it. And if punters don't spot it and don't cash in either, they have the opportunity to fall in if you called it like that. But as you said, I think the biggest bugbear is it's the Cheltenham Festival. That goes on every Monday and every track, like down. But at Cheltenham Festival, where you get these casual viewers, it's supposed to be like a really difficult handicap. Everyone's got kind of a form chance. You would have put that 66, 80 to 1. And you'd have saw that at 14s and went, well, let's get no chance at 14 to 1 in the way you're looking at it. So, for them, it's kind of the kind of stuff they're saying. Normally, if you get your development as this sport kind of not as straight as it could be. And you always have to kind of say, well, no, there's ways to do things fairly. That was seriously pushing the envelope as well, and you can see why a few people that don't monitor it every day and every watching week weren't happy with it. Unexpected Party was one. Yeah, I like the other Skelton horse in this, which was wrong, and the betting told me I was wrong, and Harry Skelton was on the right one. And the ground went against Calico, and I had quite a few like that where Henderson wasn't firing. And if you're an anti-post punter and you're looking at middle of marks, you're looking at good to soft generally. Looking like spring ground, you're not looking at heavy ground. And we've had that now 2-3 years. We've had some like not soft, like bottomless, like really bottomless stuff. And like spring festivals, you're normally looking good to soft. You normally work in that, and that certainly didn't help me. I thought Liberty Hunter was really well in, and he ran quite well in second. He just get done for a bit of inexperience. But it's another lightly raced novice that he could have flung himself in an arc a little bit. I mean, Safarour cheat well in fourth. I think he wanted further. Path to third. Again, he didn't quite see it out at the finish. He's got previous to that. St. Wa probably wanted further as well. He was a little bit too far back. It's quite hard at Cheltenham and the old course, particularly when they move the ground down at the old course, to actually hold one up and come late. You need to be kind of reasonably on the pace, regardless of how fast they're going. Madara made a mistake 3 out that kind of finished her off in the ground.
I thought she was running quite well, actually, and I thought she was travelling quite well. She just had made that mistake, and it just kind of was a few like Batman Giraffe was another one. Like he get absolutely mauled with that Nichols horse in front of him that kind of just did his chances, and I feel like that for me. They were just too far back, made a wee mistake, and it just kind of really killed their chances. It was mainly handicaps, but overall, like handicaps, I get it. I get it. I think the Langer Dan stuff it is when you're seeing it, it's so blatant in front of your face. It's there's a part of it that's punter's jealousy, but it's also part of it there is a wee bit of kind of what is actually going on there. And I think the handicapper, you made a good point on Twitter. The handicapper was fairly brutal in certain Irish horses, and it just ruled them completely out of it. But you're seeing things like this going on.
Yeah. I mean, you're lumping pretty exposed Irish horses. I mean, they are in handicaps for a reason. I can understand why they're a bit protective of novices and maybe hiking them up 6-7 pounds. I don't think you can give it to like exposed 8-9-year-olds off like mid 130s and jacking them up to kind of early 140s. And while a horse like that, he has reacted. He's up to 151 now, so I don't think it's going to happen again. Even if he does run the way he does,
Hilarious if it does. If it does again,
he's not going to get into 141. But he's handicapped on merit and performance there, and he ran like a 150 horse again there. And what is there to say he could come around and win it again third time around off a top weight off 147, 148? That would give him more credit for what he's deserved. And there's back form there. He was a well handicapped thing and bumped into only Gallop and Deschamps. What's he rated now? 180 over fences?
No, it's true. It's true.
There's that thing there, but I think the problem where I've got sympathy with the handicapper is that he's got to give these novices that really should be running in graded races, and he's got to handicap them after 3 or 4 runs, and he's got absolutely no idea. Like Bunners would have no idea how well in they are, and he's they're made to look a little bit foolish in the way it runs. Maybe that needs tweaked down the line.
Calum, we'll move into Thursday. We'll run through obviously the winners in the Thursday. I thought a really good advert for British racing was the Turners. Grey Dawning beat Jenny's Destiny. I thought Grey Dawning, I think we both felt maybe this was the wrong race for Grey Dawning, and he ends up winning the race, and it was a really good winner. Facile Vega, I'm never backing him again. He's done. Last chance saloon's gone. But in terms of the top two here, I really think that this was a good advert for British racing.
Nah, it's another race that should be binned off, really. Grey Dawning's running the wrong race, Slidestyle's running the wrong race, Ballyburns running the wrong race. If these races were kind of geeled a little bit together, it looked good. But he's beating the same horse again, essentially. That's it, over a shorter trip. So, I mean, I gave it 157. That was really good. I think he outstayed Jenny's Destiny. The top two were really jumping really well. They were prominent from the off, which is useful around Cheltenham. They like the soft ground. And they just sees control of the race. The scruff of the neck going, all these Irish horses have been allowed to dominate us. This is where we're strong and we're going to show we're strong. And I think credit to the jockeys, Harry Skelton and Harry Cobden, in remaining positive and upbeat about it and riding confidently and giving it, we're going to ride them as the best here and see what happens. And the top two pull really well clear. I think Ginny's Destiny's ran his mark 155 again. I think Grey Dawning 157 is there, but again, it's just same form. Jail and Thurb was up there, and the Irish horses have disappointed. Iroko has probably needed the run, stayed on a little bit. Jumped okay. Facile Vega, he just doesn't have scope over a fence, and he was always far too far back anyway. You never kind of felt you were ever going to get a run.
Yeah.
And you can maybe be a bit kind on him. I wonder if they'll go Stairs Hurdle with him next season. I think that's might be the plan. I think he might revert back, go 3 miles, do something like that. Go back to the drawing book a little bit with him. I think he'd be tempted with that, and the ground went against. Let's be clear about it. He at least took his chance here rather than the plate, which was easy enough to do. And a couple pulled up. But yeah, the top two are really good performance, but I mean, we don't know how good they are because they should be running against better horses like the Irish will have Factifile Monty Star. If they were in the same race, then you'd have context of how good they are. We don't know how good the top two Irish horses really are, and we don't know how good the top two British horses really are because the programme caters to them avoiding each other. And that's my big disappointment of the festival, really, is that you were seeing visually good performances, but we still don't know the context of them.
Ryanair was won by Protectorate. Again, we know somebody that had a really good bet on Protectorate.
Yes.
Envoy Allen was second. Banbridge, Calum, I want to get your thoughts on. It was difficult because it was just too keen and they just held the ground was soft. But the winner, again, this was a good advert for the Skeltons. Protectorate, I couldn't have backed them with stolen money. Wins the race. Fairly poor Ryanair. I don't think this was the best Ryanair we'll ever see. But the winner does it well.
Yeah, he's come back to form, hasn't he? He's always kind of, you always think he's going to stay on a little bit. But, Skelton's, he's peaked them for this week, successfully. That's the nature of the job. If you think you've got horses that are good enough, campaign them likewise and peak them for this. It was a borderline career best, I think 161. I kind of gave him. He's rated 165. His rating had him in there. Didn't quite get home the Gold Cup. Probably a bit too tough for him anyway.
Yeah.
He'd been ticking over decently. Beaten by the home press at Lingfield, who's probably a quicker horse than a lot of people give him credit for. And on a soft ground, Ryanair played to his strengths where he was handy, jumped really well, never missed a beat, and won by 4 lengths. Envoy Allen, who did come there cruising and just outstayed him up the hill.
Yeah.
I think Envoy Allen's probably a classier animal, but on ground like that,
he hung quite badly at the end, didn't he?
Tiredness, and he didn't have anything left, and no extra, and Conflated just couldn't quite have that tactical speed that Protectorate had over that trip to kind of stay involved. But he boxed on nicely for third, as did Capodanno for fourth. Stage Star isn't quite up to this level, and I have to say, neither was Banbridge, even though the ground, but he was beaten a long way out early doors. Had this kind of soft grade 1 intermediate form coming into it that looked good. He looked the progressive one, and better ground would have been a better performance, but he was in trouble for a long way out. He was too fresh, never settled, and maybe not quite battle hardened enough for that assignment. But I mean, it's a race. It's a race that's now kind of. It's a race that's kind of now not for good enough Gold Cup horses, isn't it? I don't even think it's trip related. If it's trip related, it'd be 2.5 miles. But I mean, it's a race that could be demoted to Grade 2 company. I think it's just these intermediate races don't really do it for me too much. I think it's just a soft cop out option at a Cheltenham Festival. Protectorate's done it well. I think Lone Press could be that kind of horse next season. Beating Gold Cup horse. Maybe bowling out early. It's an excess stamina, very clean jumper, has more speed than you think. He'd be 10, but it can be done unless you're a specialist kind of 2.5 mile like an Allaho here. Undersow is kind of 2 mile, got 2.5. It's you're winning this because you get the trip and it suits your strength in the day rather than kind of being properly earmarked for it, I think. So, yeah, he was a worthy winner, bang the on form, and he's the one that peaked and turned up really well and outstayed last year's winner.
Callum, the big winner for you over the week was Tia Hupu. Went off 5-4, race wide, just looked so comfortable, beat everything really comfortably. Hats off, Tia Hupu. You've hit it for a long way out. He got his redemption, and he's a top class staying hurdler.
Nah, I mean, I just hope he gets credit he deserves. He get knocked for beating Honeysuckle because that wasn't in form. He get knocked for beating Perry Pass because that horse wasn't in form. Get knocked last year for not winning it when the jockey, obviously, it was jockey error. And, David Russell was riding one arm at that point. It was not the horse's fault. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. He's kept fresh, and everyone's kind of knocking him. This is the worst favourite of the week, and he was the best favourite of the week because he was the best price one, and 2-1, and it came down, and he did go 5-4, as I kind of predicted in the previous show. I think this will get hammered in at some point when people do see the light. And yeah, he didn't jump entirely fluently. It wasn't his best jumping display. He hit the second last. He made a mistake in there as well. But he just hard held in the bridle after it, and and people still knock his Irish Point wasn't there. He's done as much as Irish Point has done in the kind of 160 bracket, a low 159. I gave him 159 for that, but they didn't know any pace. It suited him. He does have a bit of speed over 3 miles, and he's just vastly superior to these. Ford Porter again coming back, reverting the hurdles, ran another cracking race. As an old stager, it really suited him. He settled a bit better. He just got outspeeded by a very classy winner, and Home by the Leaves ran well as well. He adjusted right, but bagged the rail and boxed on nicely for third. Just didn't have that kind of turn of foot as the winner did. And Buddy One was fourth, and the British horses, they're miles away, aren't they? The Crambles of the world. And, come on, he needs better ground anyway. He might bounce back at Aintree, but even you'd rather back Sav early, wouldn't you? He didn't have pace of challenge and actually box on okay up the hill. If they go a truly run 3 mile on bad ground again.
Calum, we have to give a mention to that old gunslinger Paisley Park. I thought it was quite good. Obviously, retired after the race, which we kind of expected. Thought it was quite funny, Matt Chapman asking Gordon Elliott about Paisley Park, probably before he'd asked about Tiahupa.
Yeah, I mean, he's a old champion, isn't he? He's won before. He's kind of been the flagship horse in this for 4 or 5 years now. He's came through the grades and done well. And in his defence in that race completely didn't suit him. They went absolutely no pace whatsoever. But he do get found out at this level eventually. Happily, he's definitely one of the horses in the National Hunt game that's more than earned his retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Mayor's Novice, Calum. A bit of a turn up here. Golden Ace for Jeremy Scott, really good winner. Beat Brighter Days Ahead and Jade de Grugy. Calum, Paul Townend I thought was superb most of the week. I think this is one of the races he'll look and say, I made a bit of a mess of that.
Yeah, and in a Cheltenham Festival that didn't have many bad rides or hard luck stories at all. I thought it was a lot of good, clean riding and a lot of fairness here. This was a case of the top two in the market just looking at each other and not riding the race to suit. And Brighter Days Ahead and Jade de Grugy have been done by a good speedster. And it can happen. There's been British runners that have won this. Love Envoy, You Wear It Well. I think this guy Golden Ace has got a bit more. Has got pace, and she's shown it really well. Travelled strongly at the back, got the right position up the rail, and travelled the best, and it did look the winner since 2 out really. Jade de Grugy hanging all over the place, and Paul Townend couldn't get a clear sight at all at the last. And I think he'd be quite frustrated. And Brighter Days Ahead had a better run in, but he just wasn't quick enough to fend them off, and the penalty maybe have anchored her as well. Well, Jade de Grugy just couldn't have a run at all. I think it was like a 20-runner race, the way she couldn't, get in the position. It was a bit like that. She's been beaten a good 4 lengths at the end. So I wouldn't completely categorise it as unlucky. I just think it's bad tactics that were employed by the top two, who were too busy thinking that they were the only two in the race, and the market kind of said that. But you've got to kind of truly run it to find out. I mean, I think Jade de Grugy was mindful, going, my horse might be quicker than yours, and Brighter Days Ahead was thinking, well, actually, my horse might be quicker than yours, because you've got 2.5 mile form in the book, and it's a genuine 2 mile that's come up and popped them and done them both for speed.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 handicaps on Thursday, Calum. It was a day to be on the old football managers. Sir Alex Ferguson's Monmiral won the Pertemps, which I didn't see coming. Shake 'em up, Harry, hats off. Good winner of the plate. And the gamble was landed on, I know the way you're thinking, in the Kim Muir. Takeaways for handicaps on Thursday.
Yeah, Monmiral. That's a very good ride from Harry Cobden.
Yeah.
Obviously, probably one of the best rides of the week. Kind of kept there boxed on, and it was a race that actually went reasonably hard. Did them in the front. Cuthbert Dibble was actually quite unlucky at outpace and made quite a few mistakes. Was well punted quite well into favouritism as well for Twiston Davis. Just didn't quite never quite looked like a winner, 3.5 lengths down. He was probably the one to take it out, which was a surprise. But yeah, they were all kind of exposed. It's a qualifying handicap, you know, and that was a race. That was a handicap of the week that could have a more old-fashioned look at it. You know, and well, you know what we've got qualifying wise, and you know none of them looked obviously well in.
No.
In Monmoral, he was tout as a Grade 1 horse by the day, down to 138, sharpened up after Chepstow. He's won quite well. I wouldn't call it a well handicap performance. I mean, the best result of that again in Bold Endeavour got to such a ridiculous price. He went out 80s at 1.6 places. And, you know, Nick Ennis was running them just for the sake of it. But sometimes you've got to think, I've backed this all season. I've looked at it all season. Pull the trigger. It's now 80-1. You might as well have a wee bit on each, and he ran really well. You know, he's a really consistent horse off that weight, and even with the yard under the cloud, you know, he's been up there the front, you know, throughout, and he's still plugged onto the line, and he's only beaten 4 lengths at the end in 4th, so
Yeah,
he's definitely outrun his odds. And yeah, it was a race where the Irish couldn't really get into.
yeah, absolutely. Obviously, plate winner, shake him up, Harry Kim Muir. I know you were thinking, but in terms of the Friday, Callum, we started off with the Triumph Hurdle, and Sir Gino was a sore one because there was doubts all week. I'm not going to say that when he was put out, it was when he was ruled out, it was a surprise. But in terms of my anti-post book, it took a bit of a sore one. But classic Willie Mullins, Masborough saved the day. I thought, I was amazed this horse went out to 6-1. I thought what was going to be a deep ground Triumph Hurdle for 4-year-olds. I thought the one who scopes to be, I think Masborough will go on and be probably a really good chaser. And I thought he was always the bet in the race for me in that ground.
He's definitely a chaser long term. He did plenty wrong, you know. He didn't jump left. He was fresh enough. He's a really kind of strong kind of striking horse. But I mean, the line in for him was, you know, Willie Mullins' horse has improving from the first run to the second. It's been massive, and he scope to do it, and he generally has done it. Was this a strong race? Not really. And Kyrgyz's ran okay. It's been done by a stronger steer in the end. She's probably a kind of 2-miler. There are shades of Galamasso about her though. I'm not sure she's one to completely progress. 4 going from 5. Solver loved the ground, ran quite well in 3rd. Nürburgring made some good late gains in 4th. He's kind of solid, you know, reliable type, but he's not one that's going to pull up any trees. Stormheart was too keen. He's kind of a speed-based horse, and I think, and they went a reasonable enough clip, and he just didn't kind of back off of it. I think Salvador Munday shaped well enough promise to be probably a decent novice hurdler next season.
Yep.
He boxed on quite well to the line. Bunting, I think, would be a chaser, but I think more experience over hurdles won't do him that badly. Maybe one for a pair top next season. Don't think he's graded class. I think that's the way I would be kind of going with him. But yeah, I think it was an ordinary enough triumph for what it was. And yeah, I can see why I think a lot of Sir Gino backers would be pretty frustrated, because it was hard not to kind of see him win things, all things considered, there if he turned up in a reasonable enough shape.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Albert Bartlett, Callum. Stellar story one for Gigginstown, and all I could think of was we've been looking at the wrong Gigginstown horse all season, and again, similar. You wouldn't have had Stellar Story winning after his performance earlier on at Leopardstown. He was 4th behind Dancing City, 11 lengths behind, where he jumped really poorly, but he's improved massively. Beat the Jukebox Man, who I thought ran a storming race, and the Bartlett is that type of race where form goes out the window and you just go what you think. Like, do you know what I mean? Stellar Story's got the profile. It's something like 4 runs. I think something like 3 bumper runs before that as well.
Mm.
I mean, it's that sort of race where it can just throw up anything.
Monkfish only winner in the last decade that's been sub 10-1.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. I think this is probably wheat race, and it was kind of like a Kilbrick and Storm year where, you know, who handles the conditions the best wins it. I mean, Stellar Story, pretty exposed in my opinion. I mean, they weren't even planning to run him. Croke Park got lame on the Wednesday, and he was there to fill in the second void as in the second colours. So I mean, how good Croke Park is, nobody knows. He's 100-1 for a Brown Advisory, which isn't too bad if you think Stellar Story's a kind of 10-1 National Hunt chase horse. The way Gigginstown could split them up. He did it well. He was the one who's always going to reel them in. He just loved the ground. He's like stay away faded, boxed on quite well, nice guy, vanilla, hardly going to kick on probably next season. I'm not so sure. I think maybe the likes of like Gidley Park did plenty wrong and understandably tired. Captain Teague as well did the same thing, understandably tired. That Dancing City boxed on reasonably well. Reading Tommy wrong, obviously was a bit too attritional for him. I think probably something I missed too far out for him to get beaten. But yeah, he was too short for Albert Bartlett, wasn't he? The way he was getting, he's 2-1 almost.
And I don't know what Patrick Mullins was
and-
thinking in High Class Hero. He wouldn't have won. The ground
He was far too far back, but he was too keen and
Incredible
he wasn't
ride.
getting settled. He couldn't settle him.
No.
And if you don't settle him, he's not going to get home. And he didn't. He maybe a bit exposed, but he had a similar kind of workman-like profile that Stella Story did. It's just like it's just really a trivial contest on the ground, and I think this is a race that could maybe come back down and trip a little bit. I know people don't like it, but I get rid of the Gallagher, make this a 2 mile 6, like the Nathaniel Lacey, and just have the two runners, the two novice hurdle races. I think the festival will be better for it. It's Stella Story, yeah, he looks like the one for National Hunt Chase next season, doesn't he? Big strapping chaser, probably an Irish national thing. Don't think he'll win another Grade 1 again, but he's going to be a big graded horse the next 2 or 3 years, and these kind of big staying marathon trips.
The Gold Cup was won for the second year in a row by Galloping Deschamps. Paul Townend equalled Pat Taft's record of 4, the jockey to win 4 Gold Cups. Galloping Deschamps' second Gold Cup. How do you assess it?
Oh, fantastic performance, exactly the same as the first one. Maybe he ran more prominently and jumped even better, and maybe beat a better horse in second this time around as well, particularly in the ground. And he's the best Gold Cup winner since Cable Star, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
That's how top class he is.
Do you think he's Willie Mullins' best ever horse?
He's almost there, yeah. Yeah, he's not far away. I mean, yeah, back-to-back Gold Cups. I think you could swap that even for like the CVs of great horses in the past.
I'll rephrase that question actually. Is it Willie Mullins' best training performance to get?
Yes, absolutely.
A 2.5 mile Martin Pipe winner to win 2 Gold Cups.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was well in for a Martin Pipe, wasn't he? And things like that. The thing that impresses me is the harness is kind of always to harness that kind of raw energy that he had that kind of got him over a turners like 2.5 miles, where he was like almost ferociously keen. You'd think, well, he's not going to stay a Gold Cup trip if he keeps doing that. But to harness that energy, but not knock the world class edge off him is really miraculous. I think for all the top class horses, I think he is probably the best. His CV says he's the best. He's maybe didn't achieve much hurdles, but over fences, he's streets ahead of anything else he's had. I would think so.
I think he's the best chaser. I'm not sure about hurdler because we'll get into that Friday. There'll be an article on the site. What is Willie Mullins' 10 best horses? He's best chaser, but I think it's an interesting point. It's probably something
for Heen's involved. It depends what you want to do. If you want to achieve like fences and want to achieve hurdles, but I want to win Gold Cups.
Chaser. I think he's far clear.
Just about overall, it's another debate. I think he probably is overall now.
Possibly.
I think it's going to get into that point, particularly if he wins a third. But it was a very good performance. Jerry Coloma thought would run a career best, did run an absolute blinder. He'll probably come back for next year as well. Corrit Ran will run a stormer as well. Just getting a bit tired. You'd be worried about the turnover for the Grand National. I don't think it's going to have a 5-1, 6-1 pretty sure thing to kind of back that up. I'd be a bit concerned. Long Press jumped really well on soft enough ground, but his stamina kind of ran dry a little bit, and it was the same for Brave Man's Game. He ran commendably as well. The Gentleman's Game found it a little bit too hot, fast or slow. I'm interested to see how close he would have been. I mean, caused minor interference to the top two. He was on the heels and he seemed to be travelling reasonably well enough. The mistake kind of came out of nowhere. It was hard to see because it was going to buried away a little bit, but it was a proper Gold Cup. It just developed brilliantly. And it's a pinnacle of horse racing, and we're seeing a modern great deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal performance. Final 4 races we'll talk about. Calum, Hunter's Chase, Seen No Men, 1 beat It's On The Line with 3/4 of a length. Limerick Lace beat Dino Blue in the Mare's Chase. Absurd. The Ebor winner goes on to win a county hurdle. And the final race, Better Days Ahead, won the Martin Pipe. What's your takeaways from them?
Yeah, I mean, seen no mine won quite well. I mean, it was another one that I was watching the kind of preview back ahead of this. I did give quite a lot of positive mentions to winners rather than kind of directly back them. That's the kind of bet I'm like. I mean, I can shortlist, I can narrow it. I think I can narrow them down to like 4 or 5. But, pinpointing 1 and 2 before the off is difficult. That's what tipsters do. Betters can kind of spread things around a little bit. But see, no mind, the form maybe wasn't quite there, but she was coming into in a rich vein of form. The Mears allowance happened, she would have won further. I thought. I mean, so on the line was lucky to get 3 quarters. Maybe that hard race where he had Billoway kind of maybe knocked the edge off him a little bit. He was never kind of travelling. I know he's a bit of a lazy type and things like that, but he's never kind of quite ever getting there, was he? It was quite hard work for Derek O'Connor to have the clean sweep. The county, I thought Absurd was very, very good, given the ground to go on against him.
I thought this was the best ride of the week.
Yeah, it was, without a doubt. Yeah, it was sensationally done. Paul Towney comes alive Friday, doesn't he? Cheltenham mainly. He held up nice, and his flat speed one, they did go a crawl, but he has a raw flat speed, he's rated like 110 on the flat, that kind of won the day. I think several shaped him probus. It wouldn't be too harsh on Adrian Hesketh as it goes on. I just didn't think she had the pace to go in there. I didn't think they were unlucky. I mean, she was actually in a reasonable enough position. The top 2 just darted away from her, and 2 really, really well handicapped horses as well. Then Pied Piper ran credibly in 4th, like he always does. They were well beaten, but they're on their marks, and they're not badly well in as well. They've just bumped into 2 that are well ahead. Ludesud and Skelton Mullins, they won 9 of the last 10. 5-4 Mullins in the county hurdle.
You know the other? What was the other one? What was the one that broke that duck? Do you remember?
I can't remember that. I don't think.
Belfast Banter.
Well, yeah, you take something like that to go in. Yes, Belfast Banter. Yeah. No, I don't think I would have got that. I was trying to remember who won the Martin Pipe. Never mind, this is Martin Pipe. It was Better Days Ahead, of course. It was good. Again, it just always comes to the fore. These real handicap horses.
Yeah.
They would have done themselves probably justice in the Albert Bartlett and things like that. The Coral Cup. The top 3 in the conditional rider. I think Katie Bourbon might be the best one down the line. I think he could have carted in it smoothly.
Could be a good chaser.
He looks a Brown Advisory type, doesn't he? The way he kind of travelled in it very classily and was beginning to pick up a little bit in the line, just didn't quite have that ton of foot as the winner did. He could be a Talis horse, very reminiscent of American Mike, the way he finishes off his racing, but it's whether he's going to be as consistent. Watford Whispers look like, the stamina driver who's tanking through it, travel too soon, but he's obviously still well handicapped. And the Mare's Chase, Limerick Lace just outstayed Daniel Blue. Daniel Blue got the trip fine. So Limerick Lace had the run of the race up front, jumped really well, stayed on really well to the line, and she's maybe worth a pop in the Grand National. But
I really don't have an issue with Dino Blue, because I think she did get a trip. I just think Limerick Lace just went too much of a leader. I don't really have an issue with Mark Walsh. I just thought it was more Limerick Lace was better suited.
I think if Stamina's only down, I think you have to hold back, which is a superior horse. I mean, a bit like Lossmouth, in a way. You go, well, I quite fancy cover, but that was the only threat, and that's the only thing that developed. She got within 3/4 of a length. Remember that she was carrying a £5 penalty too. So for all the talk of Lossmouth going, should Daniel Blue have been in the champion chase? Because I think she would have been close to winning it the way it developed.
Probably won it, yeah.
So it's kind of worth thinking about in these Mares races. When you want to lumber what you think's a penalty kick, a £5 penalty against actually you bumped into a Dale Staring bar ground here. You could have went a Grade 1, and if you just kept on your feet, you only beat Captain Guinness to beat, and you would have got a £7 allowance.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You might have ran on the wrong race.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's overall the review of Cheltenham 2024, Callum. It was soft ground. It was attritional, but we saw some good winners. But just like always, we're going to look ahead to 2025, and final part of the show, we have an anti-post pick. We're going to get our anti-post books for next year off to a flying start. 2 very different prices. I'm going for an 8-1 horse. You're going for one at 50s. I'll go first. We'll build yours up. Right, mine didn't run at Cheltenham, but I think you probably know where I'm going here. It's in the Arkle. I think Sergino could be certain to go over fences next season. I don't think they'll even entertain staying over hurdles. I think they know what they've got with Constitution Hill. If it gets back to that, then there's no need for Sergino. And Henderson has a terrific record in training Arkle winners. And you look at the likes of Sprinter Saka, Altior, Shishkin. I don't know. I could see Sergino in that kind of fold in terms of would win over further. I think we knew at the start that Sergino was probably best days would lie over a fence. I think anything this year was a bonus. And in terms of the Arkle, I don't think Ballyburn will go Arkle route. I think that'd be the only horse I'd be worried about. Mystical Power could be their Arkle horse in Mullins' team, but I think Sergino, I think they'll campaign him over 2 miles. I think they'll know what they've got. I think they'll campaign him fairly similar to what they've done in the past with the likes of Altior and Shishkin. Fairly calm campaign. You can pick, I mean, the British 2 milers in the past couple of years have been fairly deplorable, and I don't see that changing in the next couple of years. I think Sergino could find it relatively comfortable in the next season. And going into an Arkle, I think as long as he keeps sound and he's able to build up, I think it could be a strapping chaser. And I think 8-1 for an Arkle in 2025. I'm going to get the ball rolling now.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable enough. Maybe you'll get this kind of Ballyburn thing. I mean, fences is likely, isn't it? That's the thing about Sergino is, have we seen enough of him to justify what he is, particularly for next season? We didn't get there this year. I've only seen him twice. 8-1 for Arkle. Nicky Henderson under a serious cloud. You have to think right now. I know there's a year down the line, but you don't really kind of know what kind of context it is. And 4 going 5 in Arkle, I don't think it's got a great record. So yeah, there's doubts about everything obviously at this stage, but yeah, I think he's the obvious one you'd pick out. You think he'd go that trip as well. So yeah, that's reasonable.
Hey, Calum, 50-1. Where is it? What is it? And when do I back it?
Yeah, 50-1. Mare's Hurdle. It's a horse called Zenta.
Oh, okay.
Now this horse boxed on quite well in the county hurdle of 145, £7 hike from a reasonable run in a similar race at Leopardstown. It hiked up by the handicapper for that. It hiked up again. Now 7th in a finished position isn't great. I watch it back. She was quite handy and get done for a bit of speed by the top 2. And then when Pied Piper Magical Zoe came there, she was part of a blanket finish of them being touched off with Affadil. And she was going to lose an end of it, but she was coming back at the line. She was third in a triumph to Lossiemouth, beaten 2.5 lengths. She then went out and won a Grade 1 subsequently at Aintree. She's a high-class horse. She's got a rating of 145. Lossiemouth's 94 favourite for the next year's Mare's Hurdle. She won't be going. She might probably 80% at least conservatively going champion hurdle route. And, the rest in behind are rubbish, aren't they? They're either retiring, you've got the second that's 140 that's just come back. And Tell Me Something Else, she's going off to Broadmere duties. Lovely Invoice in the same. Marie's Rock will probably do the same. Gallimar Social next to nothing coming out from that triumph. She's on a recovery mission. And the rest, the Henry de Bromhead other ones, look quite young, quite miles off it, and look more like chasers. Mm-hmm. Now, the Mares Novices are the ones you've got to worry about, but I think the winner's a 2-miler. She's all about pace. I think there's a decent chance that Brighter Days Ahead might go over fences. Yep. Who knows? But she will be better that trip. If she is a potential monster in the ointment, then fair enough. But you can't take her on because she could be a bit slow, even over 2.5. And Jade de Grugy, lumbered around all over the place. Yes, she was unlucky, and she probably is quite classy. But there are doubts and dice. Didn't make it, and yeah, it has potential, but she hasn't done anything in graded company yet, so we don't know when she's 16. Zenta is rated 145. Tell Me Something Girl was rated 140 going in this and has been beaten 3 lengths by Lossiemouth. She's shaped up as if she needed a step up and trip. She's been missed in the radar because everyone has cottoned on to Lossiemouth Astro Diamond, who totally bombed out and wasn't suitable for her. She's another one that's got massive questions to answer in that division. Zenta ran really, really well. It's been ticking over on good handicaps since. It's ran well, shaped as if she wants a little bit further now. And, with all these handicaps not filling, it's easy to say Pied Piper. Zenta was third top weight in that race, over 2 miles. Will you run on a Coral Cup? Well, if she's doing what she's doing, that'll be off 150. That's enough to get in the mark. That's like, Echoes and Rains finished. There's 4 or 5 here beyond the favourite that are absolutely finished. Mm-hmm. And the favourite is going, by all means, at the moment anyway, to the champion hurdle. So there's a massive opportunity for a Springer here. And Zenta's got the ratings, got the form. She's 5 going 6 next year, so she's got plenty of upside to her. She's had a softy campaign. You know she won't go chasing because they tried that and it was a disaster, so she won't go that route. I think she's handicapped pretty much out of things. And the race of that nature where mid-140s gets you placed every single year, it could even win it in an ordinary year. She's already at that grade and she's got more to offer up trip. She's already got the rating in the bank. She's been running better races. I think the County Hurdle was a better race than the Mares Hurdle. Outside that, Magical Zoe, I think, is more of a 2-miler. I think she's more of a 2.5 miler, and I think she can improve, and I think she can hit 150 easily over 2.5 miles, and that could be enough to actually win our main place because there is nothing else coming out the woodwork unless these mares novices, and I think there's a question mark over them already, and they always have enough to get up. So I think 50-1 in a race trained by Willie Mullins, owned by JP McManus, and it's a weak look to it. And I know it's early days, but that's decent. And I had a lot of digging to find it, and a lot of outbox thinking, but that's handicap form. She could do what Black Tears did and Marie's Rock did. Go through the handicap ranks and then just chuck in here and win, or go mightily close to win. Because I think 2.5 miles and not ground dependent. 2.5 miles, I think will bring up more improvement. How many good Triumph horses do we see improve for going up and trip?
There was one I was going to throw at you actually, and she's 16-1 at the moment. Carla Conti.
Yeah, but I mean, Align with Nürburgring is middling Triumph form, and she's 4 going 5, and he's not in the same league as that. That is the point. She could develop into that, but you're taking codes that she could develop into that.
Yeah.
A year down the line, and she hasn't been to Cheltenham. She acts in Cheltenham. We know that. I mean, she ticks pretty much every box going in a long-term anti-post right now, and I don't see her being in any other race. I really don't. I don't see the point in the handicap. I don't see her running a county again. I think she's kind of borderline hit her ceiling a little bit, but that ceiling is enough to be a player in the Grade 1, and so many horses are coming out of this that are finished, that'll be doing their broodmare duties and things, and are so badly exposed. This horse isn't. This got a bit more to give, particularly up in trip. Mullins McManus favourite, probably out the picture. 51 isn't bad. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of boxes from a lot of different angles.
Yeah,
and if it goes wrong at the price, you can go, well, it was 50s.
It was 50s.
I mean, I don't see many negatives to even this far out, and I'm very reluctant to get involved. I said all week I was like at the top of the market when this is pointless. What's the point in this? But you can maybe try and find the odd diamond if you look deep enough, and the ones that look deep enough seem to be the ones that might go for you. I mean, Hewitt at the King George was like, it's a bit like that in the methodically, just being methodical about it and thinking about it deep and going, well, I think it's a chance. I mean, he's only priced up Paddy Power and Betfair in front of that.
I was actually looking for the price, yeah. So
50s with them is a good idea, but yeah, I think it's a lot. I think there's a lot to kind of go for.
No, I think it's absolutely fair enough, and I think we'll be talking about this and potentially, as you say, they've tried fences, it won't work. She ran fairly well in the county hurdle. I actually fancied for the county hurdle kind of towards when the kind of ground went. She's got Grade 1 form. Makes a lot of sense, Calum, and to be fair at 50-1. She's won a Grade 1. So
it's a weak race, but
she might go down a Grade 1 route. That, I mean, there's no heart. They wouldn't.
So I mean, GP McManus tends to race, and don't I mean, like, it's not a damn good company come from Coral Cup, to like single figures in a Mares Hurdle. Black Tears won one. There's Marie's Rock came from handicap company out of nowhere. So I mean, I think Lucia is still going to be champion hurdle. I mean, don't need Nicky under control possibly, but she looks quite much of a 2-miler, and she's I think rated in the mid 130s, and she's rating the 145s, and the Irish are going to bump up your handicap mark as well. So, and all these place runners in behind for Willie Mullins aren't cutting it. You might as well throw in a new contender here. I think she's very interesting at 50-1.
Yeah, absolutely. But Calum, we are going to wrap up the show there and wrap up the series. Calum, as always, mate, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And best of luck for the flat season. Aintree, we'll maybe do something for Aintree and ask it. So thank you very much as always, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, fantastic again. Great journey as it always is, and glad to kind of get on the other side of it, in a bit of profit at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in, folks, and we will be back in the near future with a new series. Thank you very much. See you soon.